Hi friends, good evening. Welcome everyone for today's session on chapter B.9. So continuing with the UNTP manual. In last session we saw transferring in relation to financial transactions, but that was not covering guarantees. So today the focus would be specifically on the guarantee transactions, which comprises of the part 2 of the intragroup financial transactions. Before starting, I would like to acknowledge the effort of Gracelyn in preparing this presentation. The legends used pretty similar to what we have seen in our earlier sessions. Schema for the evening overview, practical importance of intra-group financial guarantees, arm's length nature, how to determine that, potential transfer pricing methods. So let's get started, friends. Again, as if there is in an MNC group or in an MNE group where there are perks of getting guarantees from say parent company or either vice versa for that matter, if one company is in a position to provide guarantee to another company or for loan for another company, uh, based on the credit worthiness of the company which is giving guarantee, that helps for the recipient company or the company which is receiving loan to grow well in the business, because obviously there has been some backup which has been provided by the company which has given guarantee, and that adds value for the creditors or the lenders in order to provide loans and guarantees for the person who actually wants to seek loan. Application of arm's length principle to intra-group financial guarantees. Guaranteed entity may be able to obtain advantages conditions such as lower rate of interest and from the lender. It needs to be determined if the guarantor will provide the guarantee and assume the credit risk related to the guaranteed instrument in return for an arm's length payment, that is a guarantee fee. So whenever there is a guarantee which is given by one company to another company, for sure in return there would be some guarantee fee, but that guarantee fee, yes, needs to be justified to be at arm's length, but yes, there has to be something in return if there is a guarantee being provided by one company to another. Sometimes no guarantee fee will apply at arm's length situation. To determine if arm's length competition is required for a financial guarantee, all of the relevant terms and conditions of the guarantee should be considered and supported by the conduct of the parties. In case of explicit guarantee, a legally binding commitment is provided in most cases by the parent company to a group company, which states that the former will pay to a third party financing entity the amount that was lent to the latter in the event there cannot be any there would be any default. So in case there is a default in future, the company who is giving the guarantee, that company will fulfill the obligation of the third party lender. Mention can also be made of comfort letters or letters of intent and keep well agreements, but these generally do not transfer risk and generally are not considered as financial guarantees that require an arm's length payment. So transactions involving keep well agreements, comfort letter, letters of intent, even though would provide a kind of a relief to the third party lender, but still do not these arrangements do not transfer risk and generally are not considered a financial guarantee for the purpose of transfer pricing. Types of explicit guarantee: parent company giving it to the external creditor for the beneficiary being subsidiary. The vice versa situation: subsidiary giving guarantee to the external creditors for the benefit of parent company, and a cross guarantee where group company A provides guarantee to uh, uh, company B lender for the company B. So for any loan or credit facility which is being availed by group company B from third party lender, group company A is providing, and vice versa. So these are cross guarantees. Issue of implicit support. So what exactly is the meaning of implicit support? The incidental benefit that the MNE is assumed to receive solely by virtue of group affiliation is referred to as an implicit support. So because of a company in a group, in an MNE group, is providing guarantee, because of that, what are the benefits, or what are the benefits or perks or advantages which the other group companies are getting? This is known as an implicit support, even though not a direct support, but an indirect support is being provided by one company to many other group companies. So this is what is in a nutshell a meaning of an implicit support. Let us try to understand with the help of an example. There are independent lenders, and there is subsidiary S whose credit rating is Baa, and a loan is being provided by an independent lenders to subsidiary S. This is a standalone basis. There is no involvement of any guarantee. In such a scenario, interest rate, that is interest on that particular loan which is being offered by independent lender, that would be based on Baa credit rating, which may be which may be high as compared to second scenario where there is an MNE group, a parent P whose credit rating is triple A. Same independent lenders are providing loan facility to subsidiary S whose credit rating is Baa. So parent P who is providing guarantee, their credit rating is triple A, and subsidiary S who is receiving the amount from independent lenders, their credit rating is Baa. In such a scenario, when guarantee has been provided by parent P, obviously the rate of interest would be lesser than the first scenario where it is a standalone basis wherein there is no guarantee being provided by any other group company, and the facility has been taken on a standalone basis. So this is in a nutshell a reason of how an implicit support is being provided by parent P to subsidiary S, so that subsidiary S can get a cheaper cost of borrowing, and that would help in terms of prospering their business. Determination of arm's length nature of intra-group financial guarantees, comparability factors, the contractual terms of the financial guarantee as supported by the conduct of parties. There are other comparative factors like the borrower's risk profile, the risk profile and financial capacity of the guarantor, characteristics of the financial guarantee, economic circumstances of both guarantor as well as the guaranteed entity, business strategies. So these are the common factors which needs to be seen when a guarantee transaction takes place. These are paramount. If these transactions are, say, for example, if there is no good credit worthiness or risk profile of the company giving guarantee, it may not be in a position to provide any guarantee, or if at all there is a guarantee being provided, there may be question as to that that same company is not having any credit worthiness or a credit rating of BBB or a BB plus, or the risk profile is not that great of that particular guarantor company. Such a scenario, that company cannot provide guarantee for a third party lender providing loan facility or credit facility to other group companies. So these comparability factors becomes very much important when it comes to transfer pricing of a guarantee transaction. Assessment of underlying reason for the guarantee. An intragroup financial guarantee will have commercial value if obligations of the borrower have been transferred to the guarantor under circumstances defined in the financial guarantee. An independent party would be willing to pay for the intragroup financial guarantee. The guaranteed entity borrower achieves a better price for the intragroup loan because of the intragroup financial guarantee. So these are the three parameters wherein if these three parameters are satisfied, a transaction of intragroup financial guarantee will have some commercial sense. If these three transactions, again, these three parameters, it's not either of the three, it's all the three. If all the three parameters are satisfied, transaction of intragroup financial guarantee will be said to have a commercial value. So this is paramount, friends, when it comes to transfer pricing. We have seen this having commercial value in our last presentation also. If a transaction is not having commercial value, it would be difficult to arrive at to justify that transaction to being at arm's length. So this is very much important when it comes to intra-group financial transaction. Most appropriate transfer pricing methods, an arm's length compensation for guarantee fee, internal cup method or external cup method. Internal cup again, if say either of the guarantor company or a guaranteed company, either of them are taking or providing any guaranteed or receiving any guarantee for other transaction, other third party transactions, that can be considered as internal cup. If none of them are providing or receiving any guarantee, in such a scenario, external cup. So what is the guarantee fee which is charged by, say, State Bank of India for that matter, or their own a bank where they are having their banking transactions? So that can be considered as the internal external cup for a scenario. Yield approach. So the first is the internal cup, and internal cup or external cup. If that is not available, the yield approach. So what exactly is mean? It means is the maximum. In yield approach, we have to estimate the maximum potential interest rate savings achieved by the borrowing entity because of the explicit guarantee. So because of the guarantee being provided, what is the potential interest rate savings for the company which is taking loan from the third party lenders. So simple formula, friends: borrower's cost after considering implicit support minus borrower's cost with benefit of explicit guarantee is equal to the benefit to be priced. So if, say, in terms of example, if we say, we have mentioned this in the next slide as well. Parent A, credit rating is triple A, subsidiary S, credit rating is triple B, and the independent lenders are providing loan to subsidiary S because of the credit rating triple A of parent P. Now, if there was no guarantee of parent P, the borrowers, that is the subsidiaries, interest rate for subsidiary was 8%. Because of this, it has reduced to 6%. So 2% is the spread, or rather the benefit which needs to be priced. So this is the arm's length maximum. So this is the maximum which parent P should receive as a guarantee fee. If this is being received, then the transaction would be justified to be at arm's length. Hope this is clear, friends. The second approach is the cost approach, or rather I would say the third thing after internal cup, external cup, and yield approach. The third thing is the cost approach. In that there are two approaches. Was the minimum guarantee fee might be quantified as a function of the probability of a default rate of the guarantee entity and the expected recovery rate in case of default. Second approach is the capital required to support the risk of the guarantor. Now, in approach 2, what are the methods for approximation of capital required to support the risk of guarantor? Credit default swap model, that is a proxy of credit default swap fees. Contingent put option, the value of the price that the guaranteed entity should pay for a hypothetical right to sell the guaranteed instrument to a guarantor at a specified price and under certain circumstances, that is credit event. Cost of capital analysis, ALP, that is arm's length price, will be determined by referencing the cost of capital that the guaranteed entity would hypothetically need to pay to increase its equity enough to achieve the same level of creditworthiness. Financial guarantee insurance, the value of the financial guarantee will be determined by analyzing financial guarantee insurance premiums. Friends, approach 2 under cost approach is not that used. Mostly it has to be mostly the practical methods to justify the transaction of guarantees are the internal cup, external cup, and worst case scenario yield approach. And at times even cost approach first method is being used, but not, again, that is a rarity. So cost approach for justifying the guarantee transaction is a rarity. Mostly the transactions are justified with internal cup, external cup, worst case scenario yield approach. Let us try to understand the cost approach, in which approach 1, the minimum guarantee fee, how much it has to be. An independent lender lends, say, 1,000 crores to company B, subsidiary of company A of ABC group, for which company A provides explicit guarantee. Assume probability of default is 2.3% and expected recovery rate is 60%. That is, um, company B might default, the chances are 2.3%, and the expected recovery rate is 60%. That is actual receivables recoverable in the event of a customer default. So, in case company B falls into the 2.3%, the chances of receiving or recovering the receivable is 60%. So, expected cost of providing the guarantee would be probability of default, that is 2.3% into 1 minus the recovery rate, that is 60%. So out of 2.3%, 60% would be is the recovery rate. So how much minimum guarantee fee should be charged? That is 40% of 2.3, which is 0.92. So the arm's length minimum intra-group guarantee fee should be around, or I would say should be 0.92 minimum. If it is more than that, it's fine. In yield approach, friends, we saw if the percentage, whatever we have arrived, the benefit which has to be priced, that is the maximum. It cannot go beyond that. And here we are seeing the minimum guarantee, it can be 0.92 or higher, which would be said to be justified to be at arm's length. So friends, these were some of our thoughts on how to justify a transaction of intra-group financial guarantee, to confirm whether those are at arm's length or not, or how transfer pricing needs to be done in such a scenario. Any questions, would be happy to answer, friends. Thank you, friends. Have a great evening ahead.